Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the most baffling textual mysteries out there, a suppressed manuscript guarded behind solid iron doors in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Aksum, Ethiopia. Now, this isn't just your standard ancient mythology. As we're going to see, this is a document that completely challenges everything we thought we knew about the ancient world.
Just listen to this quote for a second. A region of living wind, inhabited by beings who do not possess the stillness of matter. I mean, come on, that sounds exactly like an excerpt pulled straight from a modern astrobiology paper, doesn't it? But it's not. Actually, this is a direct translation from a manuscript with physical fragments dating all the way back to 300 BCE. We are about to look at how a text this incredibly ancient somehow reads astonishingly like modern planetary science.
Okay, let's dive into this. How on earth could a 2,000-year-old text read exactly like a modern biological and atmospheric survey of other planets? That is the central anomaly we're tackling today. We're going to look directly at the translations, the linguistic evidence, and the historical records to figure out exactly what this text says and, maybe more importantly, why it was systematically buried.
The text we're talking about is the Book of Enoch. And get this, today, the complete version survives only as a leather-bound manuscript protected by actual armed guards in Aksum. For 17 centuries, the full contents of this highly technical text were completely hidden from Western Christianity. It literally just vanished from the mainstream record.
So here's the timeline. The text originates around 300 BCE, but by 364 CE, it is heavily suppressed at the Council of Laodicea. Then, jump forward to 1947. Scholars uncovering the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran were absolutely floored to find 11 copies of the Book of Enoch buried right there. It was actually way more prevalent than a lot of books that made the final cut of the Standard Bible. This discovery completely forced scholars to confront the dangerous material contained specifically in chapters 37 through 71 and 72 through 82. Section 1. The Textual Evidence Beyond Poetry. So scholars like Florentino Garcia Martinez realized pretty quickly that they weren't dealing with your standard religious poetry here. These were highly technical observation reports, and this brilliantly illustrates why. We have 3 independent manuscript lineages. We're talking Aramaic fragments in Jerusalem, Greek fragments in Cairo, and the complete Ethiopian Ge'ez text down in Aksum. That is 3 separate languages, across multiple centuries, copied by scribes who definitely never met each other. Yet the incredibly complex cosmological content matches up perfectly. In textual scholarship, this is called corroboration. It essentially means the ancient writers meant exactly what they wrote. Which brings us to a really powerful observation made by scholar Joseph Millick back in 1976. When analyzing fragments 4Q209 and 4Q211, Millick noted that the astronomical precision embedded in these chapters was absolutely not something a shepherd or a farmer could have just invented. The numbers are way too consistent, and the geometry is just too deliberate. The language used describes the movement of celestial bodies with the fixed intervals and recurring cycles of an engineer. And the text also uses some highly specific vocabulary when it comes to the inhabitants of these realms. For example, the Aramaic makes a really strict distinction between a messenger, which is like a holy servant just passing through, and a resident, a native population belonging to a specific layered sphere. Theologian Margaret Barker pointed out that this distinction was massively controversial. Think about it. Cataloging populated alien worlds totally threatened a theology built strictly on one God and one single earthly creation.
Section 2. The Ancient Zone Reports, Enoch's Geography.
Translator Michael Knibb notes that in these specific passages, Enoch acts way less like a mystic having a vision and a lot more like a building inspector filing a geographical survey. He literally lists out 4 cardinal regions beyond Earth. There's the north, containing a stone of cold, the east with the waters above, the west as the setting place of luminaries, and the south, which he calls a region of living wind. It was actually this highly specific southern region that Scottish explorer James Bruce reportedly found the most disturbing when he brought copies back to Europe in 1773. The vocabulary used in chapter 60 to describe these inhabitants is just fascinating. The text uses a Ge'ez term that translates to living radiance. Scholars have noted this isn't just poetic language about fire. The vocabulary heavily implies a biological framework. We're talking about beings who generate light internally, rather than just reflecting heat. Scholar Torleif Elgvin specifically flagged that this physical, biological description has absolutely zero parallel anywhere else in ancient Jewish literature.
And the detail goes even deeper in Chapter 43, outlining an incredibly intricate naming system. It assigns individual designations for specific luminaries, completely encoding their roles, their origins, and their governed domains. Scholar James Vanderkam pointed out this system is simply way too organized to be mere decoration. Even wilder, French epigrapher Émile Poche observed that the Aramaic root structures used here are entirely unique to Enoch. They literally had to invent a private vocabulary. You don't invent a precise taxonomy for a myth, right? You do it to document a complex system that you are actively observing.
Section 3. Echoes in Modern Science. Modern Parallels. Now, this is where the ancient historical text absolutely collides with our modern era. Think back to Enoch's southern region, describing beings existing in a living wind with no solid ground. We'll compare that to a 2017 paper from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory modeling gas giant exoplanets. NASA's modern data describes environments with sustained, organized atmospheric circulation that could, theoretically, support complex structures without any solid surface. The Ancient Zone report astonishingly mirrors our very own modern models of atmospheric dynamics. And it gets even more specific than that. Enoch chapter 60 uses the exact phrase, no stillness of matter. Compare that to 2021 research out of Cornell and MIT regarding potential microbial life suspended permanently in the cloud layers of Venus's upper atmosphere. Looking at this neutrally, just as a textual fact, a writer in 300 BCE used a phrase that perfectly matches the modern physical conditions required for atmospheric life. It's a stunning parallel, for sure.
Section 4. The Silenced Cosmos. History of Erasure.
With such incredibly detailed classifications, we really have to ask, why was this text erased from Western thought? Well, while stories of fallen angels stayed in general circulation, early church leaders specifically targeted these Amulin reports. After the Council of Laodicea removed it from approved scripture, Jerome dismissed it in the Vulgate as the ravings of a fantasist. Augustine argued in City of God that accounts of other inhabited regions were just theologically incompatible. They systematically discredited these cosmological surveys. And this institutional suppression continued right into the modern era. When R.H. Charles translated the oldest sections back in 1906, he applied heavy bracketing and qualifications, virtually ensuring that most readers would just skip the cosmological data entirely. Because of this continuous cultural erasure, it's highly likely you've never even heard of these chapters, and basically no modern seminary has ever had to explain this complex text. Section 5. The mystery remains, hidden in Axum. But, the erasure wasn't total, largely thanks to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the single institution that absolutely refused to suppress the full text. So the crucial point here is summarized perfectly by scholar Lauren Stuckenbrook. He said, "The cosmological material most resists symbolic interpretation. You cannot easily dismiss a taxonomy." Enoch wasn't writing vague, dreamlike metaphors. He was writing a matter-of-fact classification of alien environments and their residents. It simply does not cooperate when scholars try to read it merely as allegory. And there is likely a whole lot more to this story that we haven't even seen yet. In 2019, a European documentary team attempted to gain access to the restricted manuscript archive in Axum, which is known to hold unpublished material. Well, their permit was denied. Stuckenberg himself confirmed that this archive holds material completely unexplored by Western scholarship, and coordination for academic access remains completely stalled out. As Yale Divinity School scholar John Collins noted in 2016, these sections represent the most systematically ignored portion of ancient Jewish literature, a striking neglect. To be completely clear, we aren't looking at this explainer as a definitive endorsement of literal extraterrestrials visiting Earth. Rather, we're looking at a profound academic mystery. This is a text whose vocabulary, taxonomy, and atmospheric predictions simply shouldn't logically exist in 300 BCE. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to take away. If a 2,000-year-old manuscript can seemingly predict atmospheric biosignatures and structured wind systems on gas giants, what other meticulous zone reports are still waiting behind those closed iron doors of Axum? Thank you for joining this explainer. Keep questioning and keep looking deeper.